He's probably the most unreliable narrator I've ever encountered out of all the thrillers I've read. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel if you haven't seen me around before. I'm Lauren, and today I'm reviewing The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I YouTubed it several times. It's the best pronunciation you're gonna get this whole video. Alex Michaelides. Before I even get started, I want to give a special thank you to Celadon Books for allowing me to be an early reader of this highly anticipated thriller novel. The Fury by Alex Michaelides comes out on January 16th, 2024. All opinions expressed in this video review are my own. There's a cast of 7 people throughout this whole book, but when Lana Farrar invites Elliot and Kate, her 2 best friends, to spend Easter weekend on her island that her late first husband gifted her in Greece, Ara, they don't really know what they're about to get into. So it's Lana, her husband, her son, who's 17, Kate, Elliot, and essentially the cook and the keeper of the island. And they are stuck there all weekend. And on the second day, a murder happens. None of them would have predicted that they would have ended up cast into this murder. So, who is this book for? It's for anybody who loves thrillers, especially psychological thrillers, and or anybody who likes to solve puzzles. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's really different from all the thrillers I've read to date, unless I'm really forgetting something, and that's just because of the way that the story is told overall. It's not an exciting new take on a thriller, but it's the format and the narrator. And once again, Alex Michaelides, his characters are known to be unreliable narrators anyways, and he does it so perfectly in this book. It's also really different from his other 2 books that he's written, The Silent Patient and The Maidens. I've read both of those. And if you're thinking about reading The Fury, I would suggest also reading The Silent Patient and The Maiden before reading The Fury. Specifically because there are a couple character cameos throughout The Fury from previous books. It'll just make more sense if you kind of knew what was already going on. And also it might give stuff away from the other books if you haven't read them yet. I also rated it 4 stars because it was a quick, fast-paced read, and it made me forget that I was even reading, which was the best part, I think. You know, when a book does that, it's a sign that it's a good book. Okay, and before I go any further, I wanted to give a quick spoiler warning out there to anybody who hasn't read this book and they want to and they don't want anything spoiled. To give a true review, I'm going to be diving into specific parts that would be spoilers technically. But also if you haven't read it and you don't want spoilers, you are watching a review video only on this book. So your last countdown, 3, 2, 1. What makes this book really unique, like I said before, is the format, or not even that, it's the style of narration. But Elliot is our narrator, and he is addressing you directly as the reader throughout the book. He tells you, you know, pretend we're at a bar as I'm telling you this, and pull up a seat and, you know, in exchange for me buying you a drink, you'll listen to my story. And that's really what it feels like. It really feels like you are talking to this random guy in a bar and he's telling you this and you're going, this is a bit much. This is a little bit too much information. So back off, buddy. But since Elliot's the narrator, he is the one who is shaping this story. And like with all of other Alex Michaelides' books, he's an extremely unreliable narrator, if not the most unreliable to date. because he is shaping the story over and over and over to be what he wants it to be and not actually the truth. And we never actually get the truth on certain things. Like Barbara. Did he kill her? I don't know. And like Elliot, he's probably the most unreliable narrator I've ever encountered out of all the thrillers I've read. But he sounds like a good time sometimes. Okay, on to the plot. Like most thrillers, the whole murder situation isn't surprising. Usually most thrillers have that. The whole surprise factor or solving it factor is taken away from finding out who the victim is or who the killer really is, because Elliot tells you from the very beginning that it is Lana who dies. Now there's twists, there's turns, there's revelations throughout that to figure out, how she actually does die. But he tells you from the very beginning, Lana's dead. As he jumps throughout the story, each little jump or timeline movement that he does, you are learning something new and revealing. And it's like he doesn't even understand what he's revealing to you until it's too late and he can't back out of it. But each of these little jumps is a new take on a previous event that you already know about, like Jason and Kate kissing at the ruins. We saw that, in the first time going through the day's events leading up to the murder. Then we see it from somebody else's perspective and somebody else's until we get the full story of what was happening there. And you really don't get that until the end. The plot was really, really good. It was very interesting. Just when you think you know it, you don't. I'm gonna begin dissecting a couple characters now. So first off, I'm doing Elliot. Elliot is just yuck. When you're about like 40 to 60% of the way through the book, but at like 40 or 60% through the book, I was like, okay, Elliot's pretty chill. He's just trying to be a good guy, a shoulder to cry on and helping Lana, deal with her cheating husband. But then you find out that he essentially is a stalker and an over-obsessed fan in the worst type of way that Lana could have ever encountered. That's always what happens with Alex Michaelides' characters. They're so effed up. And you kind of find that out halfway through, which, not even halfway, you figure that out, maybe 75% of the way. But that's most thrillers, but his take like a hard left turn, if not go completely the opposite direction. Some things that were left unanswered that really bothered me, like I said before, was that Barbara, the lady he lived with, was in a relationship with, whatever that was. We didn't find out if he actually killed her. And if we did, I skipped completely over that, which could be possible, but she's walking up the stairs, he's at the top, and then she's at the bottom suddenly, and he's stealing her play. She's also extremely verbally abusive, but that's just from Elliot's point of view. We don't actually know. And throughout the book, he says repeatedly he's a playwright, and that he sees all of these characters as just parts of a play that he's putting together and producing. And then at the end, we find out he's actually not a playwright. He's kind of a pretend playwright in a sense because he stole Barbara's work. One aspect of Elliot that is good, from the very beginning, he was honest about everybody who came around Lana fell in love with her immediately, including him. And he says that, but we don't get the full extent. You think it's, friendship, whatever. No, it's like he's planning on murdering her husband. It's a lot. So he's extremely manipulative. And we come to find out that he's just like all the other men in Lana's life who are just using her to get to a point. And to go back to this manipulation idea, he manipulates the reader throughout the story. Fine, I'll accept that. But then at a certain point, he starts to talk about his childhood near the end and how bad it was. And he starts to separate himself from his childhood. And then we learn that he's changed his name from his given name, that he had to live on the streets. And so the whole aspect of his childhood until he essentially renamed himself while the thing with Barbara was happening, he calls that whole period of time the kid. Like it's a whole other character in a play that he's watching and he's not actually participating in. But it felt like when he was bringing that up, it was to prove to the reader that he was justifying his actions. He couldn't help but fall in love with Lana because it was the only bright spot in his life for a period of time. Really gross. Now on to Lana. As well crafted as she is, we don't get much of her before. Meaning, during her career, what did she encounter? She says, about the men, doesn't really elaborate. She doesn't want her son Leo to follow in her place as an actor because of what Hollywood did to her, but we don't ever see what it is. But as a reader, you can kind of guess what would happen to women in Hollywood if they're famous and kind of being exploited. I think having that little bit of a before would also explain why, when she found Elliot's whole notebook with all of his plans in there, her first thought was to kill or to pretend to kill him. I think it's Kate who actually is wanting to kill him. The whole thought process in her mind, it would have been helpful for us to understand that a little bit more. And did she really believe Barbara that first day when she came in and told her everything about how screwed up Elliot was? Or was she just waiting for proof because she thought she had found the one good guy that wouldn't hurt her? And then when she did find the proof, it just broke the camel's back, or whatever that saying is. It just hurt her too much because they were so close. They were best friends, all this stuff. We find out Elliot was going to propose, and as she's looking at this notebook, literally right before, she realizes that she's in love with Elliot and would like to be with him. After a while in the book, everybody who meets Lana just almost falls at her feet or worships her for how amazing she is, and it got really boring. And everything in her life seemed to be working out and so wonderful, but it wasn't actually, until we got to see that from Lana's perspective through Elliot's perspective, not Lana actually. And Lana had so many people in her circle that she was involved with. It was really dizzying at a point because everybody had a special connection to her and was important to her in this way and made an imprint, all this stuff, which really fed into the idea of Lana being wonderful and walking on water and all of this as a famous actress. It was kind of boring to read. And it just feels like she was also just collecting and taking them on the ride with her of wealth and fame, and they were trailing on her coattails, whatever that saying is. And she didn't really know what to do with herself. And so once she finally kind of did work through all of her emotions and what was happening to her, and she decided what she wanted to do with her life, she dies. Seconds later, or minutes later after she makes that choice, she dies. And now I needed just a time to say, Kate and Jason are shit characters. They are horrible. Kate is just a washed up alcoholic actress who can't even do her job anymore. She's best friends with Lana, so everybody always overlooks Kate no matter what she does and goes towards Lana, who is in retirement, technically. Jason, what a piece of work. Yeah, so he's screwed up one too many times, is using Lana again, trying to manipulate her, trying to trick her to get him out of his financial screw-ups, but has been sleeping around with Kate for a while now. And also, when Kate introduced Lana to Jason and had the inkling of these feelings with Kate going, maybe I don't want my best friend getting involved with this guy I really like, she and Lana should have had that conversation. Kate should have stepped up like an adult and had a conversation about that. I guess late is better than never. Jason just needs to put his big boy pants on, be responsible for his problems, and start trying to fix them himself without hurting other people in the process. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. It was worth the read, and I had been anticipating it ever since I heard that Alex Michaelides had another book being published. It was really good, and I'm also convinced that he is creating a whole effed up universe of thrillers. In England, I'm assuming that's kind of where they're all gonna stay, but a whole effed up little universe of these thriller characters in the madhouse. It's wonderful. If you're a fan of psychological thrillers, if you've read any of his other books, or if you're just looking for a quick read, this is a great one. It is so good. It's not gory. It's really just psychological, and you're gonna feel like your mind has been fucked with, honestly. Thank you so much for watching this review of Alex Michaelides' latest released book, The Fury, which comes out on January 16th, 2024. If you enjoyed watching this review, consider giving the video a like. And if you happen to be looking for more book reviews or just reading shenanigans in general, consider subscribing to my channel. I have a new video published every Thursday or Friday. If you've read The Fury by Alex Michaelides and have your own thoughts on it, consider commenting down below and let me know. Or if you have other thriller book recommendations for me to check out, put those in the comments below. And once again, thank you so much to Celadon Books for allowing me to be an early reader of The Fury. Once again, it comes out on January 16th, 2024. So that's all I've got. And I'll see y'all next time. So let's